Welcome to the Charleston CFO Council. This organization was co-founded in 2015 by Robert Bendetti and Mark Carmichael in order to provide a networking and educational forum for senior financial executives to share best practices, to discuss current financial issues, and to learn about current topics related to the performance of their job.
Well, Shawna, thank you very much for agreeing to do this WebEx with me. It is great to finally get to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
Yeah, this is fun. This is the first time that we've ever met, and I really appreciate you getting to do this. As a little bit of an introduction, Shawna Fisher is the CFO at Help Scout, and it looks like it's a help desk software company, international company, and every single person who works there is remote all the time.
That is correct. Yes. So I've been at Help Scout now for about 3 years. I was kind of their first finance hire. Prior to that, I had about 7 years of other experience in the technology industry. And even before that, I was in construction for about a decade. So I've seen a few industries and happy to be at Help Scout. It's a great company.
Well, one interesting fact I found about you is that you wrote a really interesting article, a blog post article on 12 tactics for successful negotiations. It was great. And I loved right in the middle of your 12 was have a plan B. And how important is that? You're not really negotiating if you really need that one thing to happen. So that was a great tactic to have a plan B.
Yes, that was a fun post. I actually did a presentation at a company retreat on negotiating. And since then, I've talked to many of my teammates along the way, personal negotiations, professional negotiations. I feel like as CFOs, we always tend to be in that position. So happy to help people when I can on how to work through things like that.
Well, question number one is, what is your favorite business book?
So this question made me chuckle a little bit. And in full honesty and disclosure, I'll tell you, not a big business book reader. And I'll tell you why. I'm a mother of 4 children and I work really hard like many of us do. So when I get some downtime, I'm always afraid if I put a business book in front of me, I'll fall right to sleep. But the one thing I am a big fan of is I do like to listen to business podcasts. And so one of my favorite business podcasts is How I Built This with Guy Raz. And of the stories, of the stories he's done, the story about the founder of Tom's Shoes is probably one of my favorites. I think that because I'm in the software industry, I work with a lot of founders, and I'm always just inspired and have such curiosity on how these brilliant people come to find their calling in their businesses and how they grow them. So I find that this podcast is one of my favorites to listen to.
Number 2, what's the best business advice you ever got?
So I was raised by a father who had 3 daughters, and he was a history teacher, and he was also a business entrepreneur. He started his own business when he was young. And so he would teach me business all the time. It was just his calling. Whenever we were at the dinner table, that's what he would talk about. And the best advice he ever gave me, and it holds true through my whole career, and he would say to me, Shawna, cash is king. Always, save for cash, plan for cash. That is the most important thing in a business. And speaking in the days that we're all faced right now, I find that advice holds true.
Amen. What is a new habit or maybe a new tool that you've been using recently that you found really beneficial?
So this was interesting to think about. So in my leadership team right now, my CEO put a mandate down that all of the executive team needed to start doing executive coaching. Nothing I'd ever done, especially at this stage in my career. Leadership coaching was nothing I'd ever leaned into. And I found a wonderful coach. And since the beginning of 2020, I meet with my coach now once a month. And I would, for all of us that have been in our careers for a long time, we kind of feel like we've learned all the things. I would encourage anyone to go into executive coaching. It is amazing just by taking some time and just thinking through your strategies, how you work with others, collaborate with your CEOs. There's still so much to be learned, and I've benefited hugely from it.
Number 4, what is the best part of your current job?
So we get to come together as a team twice a year. And because we have employees all over the world, we change where we meet and when we do these twice a year meetups. So I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world with my team. We've been to Lisbon, Portugal, Barcelona, Spain, Mexico, and even to some great places in the US like Scottsdale and Hilton Head even. So I find that to be a really cool part of my job.
What is something about yourself that you'd like to share?
So I spent the majority of my career in Boston. So for 20 years, I was a finance professional in Boston. That's where I started my career. So I'm from the North, and I still have a really strong network of folks up in the North that I collaborate with often. So if anyone has any ties or things that you need up in the North, I can help in lots of ways.
And final question is, what question didn't I ask that I should have, and what's your answer to that?
Yeah, so one of the things we kind of touched on briefly, but Help Scout is a 100% remote company. So I came to Help Scout later in my career, and I had always worked in a co-located office environment. So learning to be successful and how to lead a team in a business in a remote setting was new for me. But I've had 3 years of practice to get to really figure it out. And I know many folks right now are forced into this work from home setting that it might be new to them. I'm happy to help anyone with some tips and strategies if you're finding this all new to you and feeling really uncomfortable. I've lived in this uncomfortable for about 3 years now.
Yeah, you're an expert in everything that is so new to us.
I've been doing
Do you have any key hacks, key tricks that you've found that either help you get your job done as the individual contributor part of your role, or anything that you've helped in your manager, you put your manager hat on? Any advice for us newbies?
Yeah, so I actually, and I have something I can share to the team. So my company came together and we put together all of our favorite thoughts and ideas, and we shared it in a blog post that I can share with the group. And it shows the tools we use and the strategies we use to stay connected. But I guess the one piece of advice I would share just quickly off the top of my head is I had to learn really quickly how to over communicate. And sometimes, you know, when you're co-located, you can kind of visually see what people are doing, but when you're all in a different environment, over communication is the key, and getting comfortable and leading into that over communication is probably the best way to feel connected.
Shawna, great tips, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. It was a pleasure getting to meet you virtually, and thank you very much.
Awesome. I appreciate you doing this. See ya.